Welcome to the R7 podcast, sponsored by M is Good. R7 is an innovative, God-inspiring process that explores personal and professional purpose. R7 analyzes 7 strategies to transform your vision and find direction in your organizational marketing. R7 establishes clarity and guidance for the gift we call life. We're back again with an R7 podcast. Oh man, every week it's just an awesome week of bringing in different guests. And this week is no exception. Oh man, Sarah Fennell from Parker, Colorado, who own and operator, founder of Interior Delights, is here joining with us today. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're super excited to talk to you and your story about Interior Delights. You know, on this podcast, we talk about destiny, vision, strategy, brand, communication, praying, thinking about our businesses, and then step 7, take action. Sarah, I was going back and it's been about 6 years since we've been working together. And
Has it? Wow.
yeah, is that crazy?
Is it really 6 years?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we
Wow.
started in 18, and then in 19 we really kicked off the ads and the ad spend and the messaging.
Mhm.
And I think about, when I think about you and really kind of taking that next step, I didn't even know what modern barn decor was when we first started.
Well,
And
that's
that
because it's modern farmhouse.
modern farmhouse,
Yeah.
see?
Get it right, Jones.
No.
Modern farmhouse.
And
I
then
just let it slip when you would say that. I was like, well, he knows what we're talking about.
Don't worry, he's only the marketing part. That's fine.
right. But I think I got this right, okay? The
Okay.
joy of your home is our inspiration. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I remember working on that slogan, and actually, believe it or not, I have a new one
Okay.
that I'm gonna be sharing soon. I'm changing that up a little bit, but it still kind of has a similar ring to it.
Awesome.
Shorter. You want me to just share it?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Happy in your home.
Happy
Or
in
I
your
think that was
home.
it. Happy in your home. We want you to be happy in your home.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
tell us in the audience about your business. Give us kind of a I don't know, 30, 45 second overview, and then we'll kind of get into your story, which I'm really excited to hear and have the audience hear.
So Interior Lights is a home decor brand. We started out as a brick and mortar store, and we added our e-commerce on about a year into having our shop, just because we have always done a lot on social media and have a lot of people that followed us from all over. And so we started shipping our product out, and now our e-commerce is 80% of what we do. And I still laugh because I can remember us shipping a couple of planters out of the back of our store, and we didn't put any packaging in them. We just
Oh my gosh.
shipped them in the box that the planter came in, and there was nothing. And then I was at market in Atlanta, and I kept getting all these messages that their order arrived damaged. And like nobody was mad at me or us, and then we learned, okay, we need to put some bubble wrap on this ceramic planter, and
Wow.
we just dove in and started doing it. And it's been quite an adventure, but learning along the way. I also never, ever worked a cash register until the morning we opened our store, and we had a line outside that went probably 4 stores down of people to come in. And so it's just, I think that kind of is, I think I'm that person that jumps and then figures it out on the way down. Like I would kind of use that to describe me, I guess.
Yeah, so we're going to talk. What I really want to get to in this podcast is really kind of spending anxiety. But before we get there, which you don't have any, which I love, you really like step out in faith and you go, and it's just awesome.
I do have a little. I'm not like,
But yeah.
Mhm.
But tell us, just take us back on, the vision and how you started and kind of that first leap of faith.
Yeah, so I will tell you just the very beginning, because it's just how you know that God is leading you in your life. You hear You hear his whisper and then you follow it and you trust it because you know it. I was a stay-at-home mom for, I think, about 10 years, and we were living on a really, really, really tiny budget. And we didn't have enough when before my husband's company was getting bought out, which we didn't know was happening, we didn't have enough money, or we had just enough money to where, like, I remember my friends inviting us to go to Noodles and taking the kids and us sharing a meal because we didn't have money to eat out. That's how we were living. And I hated living that way. And I just wanted to have like some cushion. I wanted to go buy something that was brand new and not like, I liked upcycling furniture and stuff like that, but I just didn't like living on a tight budget. And so my friend said, I had just painted this piece of furniture in this like cabinet, and I painted it white and distressed it, and it was super cute. And she was like, you should paint furniture and sell it. And I was like, really? You think people would buy it? And she was like, yeah. So my husband, I found a piece. It was $100. It had like great lines. And my husband said, I couldn't buy it. He said, no one's going to buy your painted furniture. Oh. And he eats his words every day so my friend gave me two dresser like hutches, and I painted them aqua and I lined them with this gray chevron fabric, and I put them on Facebook. And this is before Facebook Marketplace. So you didn't have like that networking that you do now. So I had created my business. It was called The Splattered Smock at the time. Put them on Facebook, and I had like 20 followers, and they sold like within an hour. Wow. And so then I sold them each for $100, and I used I had like an $80 profit on each one. And then I used that money to buy my piece that I wanted and sold it. And every time I would paint a piece, and somehow I got followers by posting in Craigslist and saying, follow me. So anyways, this was like back before you could do as much on Facebook and all that. Well, talking about spending, because I know we're going into this. Yeah. So I had this like notepad, and every piece of furniture, I calculated how much it's going to cost for the paint, how much it's going to cost for the hardware, what my profit is. And I always had to make $100 profit on every piece of furniture, or it wasn't worth it. And now I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I did that for $100. But anyway, I just kept taking what I made and putting it into my business, And that's how it got me to where I am now. I never borrowed any money, and I used the money that I had to buy the next products. And I do have a line of credit that I have makes me feel comfortable that I've touched one time, maybe twice, but that's how I run my business, and that's why I feel comfortable spending, because I know I have it. And also there's faith in there. Yeah. Like, I'm very in tune to what God is telling me. Like, he's told me to stop, he's dropped like big roadblocks in my way, and I had no choice but to stop, so I take risks. I believe that God calls us to walk in obedience with him and use our talents for him. And so if I believe that this is what he's calling me to do, then I'll do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Sarah, I love what you said. So I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
That some people are probably wondering. So there's, two sides of it, right? The one side is carry no debt. The other side, you would have some people that would say, hey, have a modest debt to income ratio. So you're still out there, you're still investing, you're still kind of pushing your business. When you hear that, what do you think about? Like, how do you respond to that?
Well, I have a notebook that I'm like talking about leveraging my money right now, because I have some things that I want to do. And I know that I would say that if you feel comfortable doing it, So I provide our family's entire income, and that's a big responsibility on my shoulders. So I'm not going to do anything that is going to put my family at risk. I'm not going to put my house at risk. I'm not going to put my kids all go to Christian school. So I'm not going to put risk of being able to send them to school. So for me, I am planning on in this coming year, because of something big we're doing, using a loan. And that's going to be the first time for me, but I'm going to make sure that I feel 100% positive and I have 6 years of sales to look back on, that I'm doing it comfortably.
I want to give our audience some perspective here. And Sarah, just be clear, you okay if I share just a little bit of perspective here?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to get exact numbers, but
Okay.
just for those that are listening out there, in 2019, Sarah was spending around $45,000 to $50,000 a year in total ad spend. Okay, through different various outlets. And today she has, Sarah, I just want to compliment. I don't know if I said this on our weekly calls or whatnot, but like you hustle, like you are in it to win it. Like there isn't a day that Sarah doesn't hustle, y'all. Like she is thinking about her business 24/7 and hustling. And so what's that?
That's true.
Yeah, you just you can when I talk to you, you can just feel like just the smoke of battle coming off you all the time. You are in it. And what I love about you and your personality is like you're gonna mess it up and you're the first one to say, I messed this up. But that just gets you closer to the yes. That just gets you closer to it's working. And it's so wonderful and awesome here because I think over my 24 years of working with Christian clients, it's like we have this spend anxiety and we won't let go. We won't let go. And I think about the spider monkey mentality, the spider monkey, like, I don't know if you guys know the story, but, spider monkey, like they put the fruit in a basket in like a sealed box and only their hand can get through. But when they put their hand through, they make a fist and they can't get out because they have a fist because they won't let go. And so the people just come by and just scoop them up because they won't let go of what's inside the box. It's called spider monkey mentality. And so like you just don't have that. You let go and you allow God to work. And I love that. So anyway, back to my numbers. About $46,000 a year in 2019. And Sarah is spending that now a month. More than that in a month. And her revenue is 4x, right? Of what that number is. Okay. So you guys can do the math a little bit. And so you're absolutely crushing it. And I want to say that with like, that's easy for us to say in a podcast, but that's really hard. So if you don't mind just speaking to that a little bit, like,
Yeah.
it's a daily grind and it's not easy, right? Like you have to get up and you have to think about your business all the time in order to have that faith. Can you just give us a brief like snapshot insight of what that looks like?
I have a lot to say about that.
Okay.
Okay. So for one, I would say if you are afraid of doing an ad spend, like on social media or Google or wherever, I would say take like a certain amount of money, maybe like $5,000, and say, I'm going to put this in there and I might never get it back and I might never see a return on my investment, but I'm just going to do this because why not? What do I have to lose? Okay. Because if you look at it from the mindset of I'm never going to get this back, and but like M is Good is telling me that I'm going to get a 4 times ROAS, so I'm going to trust the process. If you don't get it back, then you've tried and and you're if you don't get it back, you lost $5,000 or whatever it is, but you're going to get it back. And I can say that because I've been running ads. We grew our entire e-commerce business by running ads on social media. And if you do it right, you're going to get your money back and you're going to make a certain return. It takes time though. I mean, you think that I don't stress and worry about stuff? You're kidding, because I check my Facebook ads like multiple times a day. Like I try not to touch them. And I'm like, Alvin's going to be mad at me. I messed this up. Or like I had to text Alvin and say, you know, all my Facebook ads just reset and they're all in the learning phase, you know, like, and I actually, that happened yesterday, and I am working on not being a stressed out person because it's not healthy. And I just said, you know what? In my other years, I would have been freaking out, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to, like, I know now that they have to go through the learning phase and that it's going to learn and it's going to be fine again. But I think there is a lot of fear because it's a lot of money to spend. And there's a process in learning how this is going to work. You know, it's scary. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not, but I think that if you want to grow your business, you have to advertise. Like, you have to spend 30%, I think 25 to 30% of your income in the whole realm of marketing, between your email and all of the things. I dedicate 25 to 30%. And that's what you have to do. I mean, it doesn't matter. Technology is going to figure out how to take your money, and they're never going to make advertising free.
Right.
I think so. You just have to bite the bullet. If you really believe that you're called to do what you're doing, if you really believe that this is what God's calling you to do, and that you have something good to sell or to put out there that's going to make you a profit, if you really believe it and you can see it and it all makes sense, then it's worth taking the risk.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
So Dave, I love what you shared there too. But if you can, for all this and everybody who's listening, walk us through, how did you scale from one being you to where you are now? Like, how many employees do you have? You know, but what are the major lessons you learned as you had to go from $0 to where you are now?
Well, the one thing I learned is that as soon as you figure it out, something's going to change. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
I would say that. I would say, like, oh, get it all figured out. And just when you think you're going to relax, Facebook's going to change its algorithm, or like a new platform is going to come and it's going to do things completely different. That's what I would say.
One of the things I've been saying lately, Sarah, is that
Uh-huh.
your business never gets out of adolescence stage. You may have more people looking at your adolescence, you know, looking at your child,
Yeah.
which frees you up a little bit, but it never gets out of that stage. You have to constantly watch your Tommy touch everything. You know what I mean? Like, you have to constantly, somebody's got to watch Tommy, you know, and it's always touching and, like, you know, like, it's just constant. And as soon as you pull off, now, if you don't have the people, right?
Yeah.
Then, and you pull off, like, you're getting off the hamster wheel, you know, you're getting off that wheel and you just can't do it. You know, that's where employees are nice, because they help you watch your Tommy.
Yeah.
That'd be a great book, actually, right
There
there.
you go.
There you go.
Help you watch your Tommy.
Well, like, don't I mean, I have a relative that, like, okay, so I was home a couple years ago for Thanksgiving, and I noticed something wasn't right with our sales, because that's like our biggest weekend. So I was like, hey, I need to go figure this out. And my brother, well, oops, I just spilled who it was. He's like, your business should be running all by itself and you shouldn't have to do anything. And, you know, if you were doing this right, then you wouldn't have to do any work. La, la, la. It made me so mad, but I was like, you know what? First of all, I love what I do, and I would rather be doing that right now than having this conversation.
Nice.
But B, like, no, it's not true. All those people that say, like, oh, I make this, like, stream of income and do no work.
Yeah.
Somebody had to hustle to get them there.
That's right.
Like, either you're hustling or you're a trust fund person, but somebody had to hustle, you know. And I wake up and I have to discipline myself not to start working. Like, I have to say, okay, I'm going to get my kids to school. I'm going to, like, eat healthy. I'm going to exercise, and then I'm going to start working. But it's a hustle always. And there's always something. And if you're not keeping an eye on it, you know, something's going to go wrong and you're not going to realize it.
That's it. You know, I'm doing my doctorate right now. I'm in my second semester of my my dissertation. And so I've been exploring faith at every level, at a humanistic level, at a Christian level, biblical level, scholastic, you know, in terms of journals and articles. And what I've discovered, maybe you all have realized this, but what I've discovered is there's really two areas of faith. It's the faith that I have in Jesus or a higher power that there's a bigger plan. There's a bigger plan for me, and I have to just fall into that plan.
Yep.
And a lot of the questions that I have are really none of my business, right? It's God's business, not mine. But then there's this other side of the faith where it's just like how God has created us to have the skills and the confidence to go do something. And when you don't have the skills and the confidence to go do something, you know, it requires more faith than it does less faith. And especially if you haven't done it before, it's more faith than less faith. And so what I really want to get to, like in these next 15 minutes, Sarah, is this idea of spending, you know, where, you know, we talk about spending anxiety, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put this amount of money in, I'm going to need X out. Like there are times when you purchase, you're purchasing what, 12 to 18 months ahead of time. You're betting on the market in certain products almost 2 years in advance. That's a lot of faith. And to put that money out, I mean, you're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars out with the idea that this is going to sell 18 months from now.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of faith. Walk us through that and your kind of your psychology of holding on or letting go. And, you know, yeah.
I love that you're studying that. Like that would be a really neat thing to study and learn, like how people have, I think people's faith works differently in their own lives based on their life circumstances. So, okay. So I guess when you were talking, I thought I should share this because it has to do with faith, my faith, and how it's one of my pivotal moments in my life that I go back to when I feel like everything's falling apart and I'm not sure if God is like caring about me or like maybe there isn't a God because like everything's falling apart, right? I know there's God. So, when after I was doing the painted furniture and then I like started selling my stuff like at an antique mall type place, I had this gigantic desire in me that wouldn't go away. And I wanted to open my own store, but my kids were little. My youngest was not in kindergarten yet. And I have 3 kids. And I have like a friend who homeschools and I have like, I did Bible study fellowship, you know, and like my mom was like, the most important thing is raising your kids and all of this. And so I believed that was what God wanted me to do, was maybe I should just quit it all and homeschool. And maybe I should just be a stay-at-home mom. But like this huge stirring within me wouldn't go away. And so I went to my grandpa and he was 100. We were just celebrating his 100th birthday. So he just passed away this year, 108. And I said to him, Grandpa, because my grandpa owns U.S. Plastics. It's a Christian business. It's owned by a mission organization now. And I said to him, Grandpa, how do you know? And he wrote a book called God Owns My Business. And like his faith is legit. Like he grew his business just like mine, melting silver, turning it into plastics. So I said, how do you know when God is speaking to you and convicting your heart versus you just wanting to do something that you want to do because of like a selfish reason? And I was legitimately wrestling with that. And he said, well, you pray about it and you lay it before the Lord and you give it to him and you tell him that you want to do his will and say, pray and ask him to take that desire away. If this isn't your will for my life, take this desire away and help me to be obedient to you. And it wouldn't go away and it wouldn't go away. And finally, my friend said, Sarah, you are just sitting at the top of a slide. You just need to go down it. Like, you just need to do it. And then I did. And that was, look what's happened. You know, it's changed our lives, you know, but I think that the whole reason why I can do what I do is because I listen and I trust and I have faith that God is going to stop. Like, I'm going to do what I believe God's telling me. And then I have faith that when he wants me to stop doing that, that he's also going to stop it. Like, he's going to prevent me from going off the ledge because I'm continuously, praying and trusting in him. Right? Like, we can take those leaps of faith with our spending, or we believe God wants us to do this business, but we're afraid to do it. If we truly believe that this is what God is putting on our hearts, then we can do it with confidence and know that he's also going to, he's going to convict you when you need to turn or pivot. I've had to pivot.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? It's that
Yeah.
organic Tommy touch-all of pivoting,
Mhm.
and making choices and trusting your intuition, of, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this decision, but if I make the wrong decision, I'll know it's the wrong decision. So one of the things you're talking about, the spend of getting the money back earlier, I want to comment on that just for a
Mhm.
second, because it's interesting because like I think about the spend being we're learning. Like, I love what Michael Jordan said, in his series, was it Dave, was called The Last Dance, I think it was. Anyway, he said, "I never made a mistake." And I was like, "Wow, he's a narcissist," like, this guy. But then he backed it up with, "I never made a mistake because mistakes are something you don't learn from, and I learned from all of it, and so it was a learning opportunity. It wasn't a
Mhm.
mistake." So if you're thinking, "I'm gonna put the money in, I'm not gonna get anything out of it," then you probably are not gonna get anything out of it. But if you put the money and go, "Okay, what can we learn from this to make it better?" Whether it's our messaging, whether it's our design, whether it's our profile, whether it's the spend, the geographical location, whatever it is, there's always something to learn in that. And that to me is the opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
good.
so Sarah, I love what you said, because it's actually, there's a portion of Acts where Luke writes about here in Acts 5 as the church is starting to get going and the apostles are becoming more and more, visible, and the religious leaders are getting really mad. And one of the religious leaders is kind of giving a speech to the others, and he's talking about this, and he says, therefore, in Acts 5, he says, therefore, in the present case, I advise you, leave these men alone. This is the chief priest saying this to the other priests, saying, leave these men alone, let them go. For if their purpose or activity is of human origin, it'll fail. But if it's from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will be only fighting yourselves, fighting against God. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
If what you're going after and this thing is churning inside of you, and this passion that you have and this belief that you have that maybe you're called to this, you're trying to decipher between, is it selfish or is it not, then this is exactly right. If it's of human hands, it'll fail. But if it's of God, nothing's going to stop it.
Mhm.
Nothing at all. And I love that, because you're proving that out now. Because what year did you start?
Oh, well, I started like out of my garage in, I think it was 2014,
I love it. 10
2013,
years.
I think. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And like, I love every single day. I love every single day of it. But I would never go back. I look back to things like, oh, I could never do that again. But like,
Yeah.
Well, it takes a ton of energy too. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think about like, like just it's not an easy road. I know parts of your story, like you've
Yeah.
been lied to, you've been stolen from, you've almost had
Mhm.
a, hostile takeover with your business, like you fought that one off,
Yeah.
right? Like that, Matt,
Mhm.
like it just at one point it was like I'm in the valley mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and you still go, this is for me. I have this desire in my heart, right? I'm gonna, what'd you say? I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna trust, and I'm gonna have faith. And
Yeah.
like even in the midst of that dark area, right? It's
Well,
crazy.
you know what?
Mm.
It's like, and I have so much joy. Like, I feel like my joy is back. It's been almost a year since I went through this whole thing, and I have really stepped back and just let some things go and just rested. But I have a lot of joy. And I'll tell you, when it comes to faith, something that has been amazing to me. So I won't share all the details about what happened on this podcast, but we got this letter from a lawyer that we had to move out of our warehouse within, I think it was 60 days, or pay like this gigantic amount of money that we shouldn't have ever had to pay. And so I had to get lawyers. But the minute I opened that letter, like I was exhausted in my life. I was exhausted in my business. It was moving way too fast. We were going like 100 miles per hour, trying to keep up. And as soon as I got that letter, it was like, I read this book called Jonah and the Worm. Have you guys ever read this book? It's the cutest little kids. I read it to my kids. Anyway, the Wonder Maker is God. And he drops this letter down to this little worm who has to do a job, which is eat the worm that from a tree that Noah was sitting under in the story of Jonah, in the story of Jonah and the whale. So anyway, when this letter came, it was like this little thing from the Wonder Maker. Like God just was like huge boulder that was like, nope, this is your time to stop. This is not for you anymore. So I'm not even going to let you make any decisions. There's no choice. Like I didn't have a choice in these decisions, but I knew that was from the Lord too. And just, that was one of those moments where like I was able to take a risk. Dave, I remember sitting in my car, talking to you on the phone when we were in our old tiny little warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember having this conversation?
I think so. Yeah.
And you were like, well, maybe you should just stay where you are because but I was like, I can't because a black widow just crawled out on my employee's hand and we had a snake in there. Like we were working out of a barn. And nobody could handle it anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm. I remember this. Yeah.
So we took this risk and we did this. And that was a big risk for me. It was 30,000 square feet warehouse. Well, then when the time was up, but God still protected us. We didn't lose anything out of that. We just pivoted. We just moved to a fulfillment center,
Yep.
But the thing is, I think is like, that's where faith comes in with our businesses. We have to take a risk. And we also have to know that God is our shepherd. Like Jesus is a shepherd. We are his sheep and he has a staff and he lets us wander, but he's got his eye on us. And as soon as we are getting ready to go off a cliff, he's going to pull us back, with his staff. And sometimes he lets us fall off the cliff and we learn from it too. Right. But he's our shepherd and he never, ever leaves us. So that's, I think, where we have to live in our business as we take risks, whether it's with spending or with making a decision that's hard. It's like, sometimes you just have to make a decision, you just have to try it and you have to trust and go for it.
And treat it as a long-term decision and ride that, that learning. And that's what you've done. And I just love that the smoke of battle is on you, and just being so in tune to it. But I know you got to run here in 3 minutes. Dave, can you just summarize for us, like, what did you get out of today's podcast for the listeners that are out there with Sarah, and like just a couple of highlights?
I think a couple of things. First is, as you grow, whether it's a business or a church, whatever organization you're a part of, the moment you think you're going to be ready to breathe for a second, things are going to change. So, do not get comfortable. Expect the unexpected. You've probably heard that phrase before. Know that behind the corner, something's going to be different. Something's going to change. So be ready and create a culture that is ready for that. Not just you as a leader, but your people are ready for that too. If you create a culture where people are anticipating change, that'll carry you a pretty long way. After that, I think, one other thought here is to be fully understanding of the vision and the calling that God has on your life, and then discern it. Sarah, as you talked about, pray about it. God, if this is not something you want me to do, take it off my heart.
Take the desire away.
Don't let me stop. I go back to this again. This verse. If it's from God, you will not be able to stop me, baby. That's what it is. And that's exactly what we talked about. So I love it. Awesome story. Great things to think about.
And I always have an exit strategy, always, every day. So if a letter like that ever happened to me, like that was an example, but when I got a letter from the lawyers, but always I always set myself up so that if something happened to me today, I could close my business today and I would have no debt, or I would be able to like liquidate everything and pay the debt. So that would just be something else. Like, don't go risking, don't go blowing something that you don't have,
Yep.
there has to be some
balance there.
Yeah.
I love this.
I
Sarah,
think we
love your
could.
story.
I think we could go for like 2 hours on this
Right?
podcast here, but I know you got to
No.
roll. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. We got to do this again and just really just roll. So
Yeah, that was super fun. Thank you for having me.
you got it.
You're
All
welcome.
right. It was nice to meet you, Other Dave.
Yep. Hey, it was great having you, Sarah.
All right.
Look forward to the next time.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks again for joining us. I want to give special thanks to our sponsor, M is Good. Want to learn more about M is Good? Go to misgood.com. Join us again next week as we continue to uncover the secrets to success with faith-based testimonies and the power of R7. Remember, destiny awaits, but time does not.